Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.
Hi, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. My name's Mills, and I'm joined in an interesting studio setup this week by Quigliano, the ever-present. And well, if you listen to the show, maybe it was a long time ago now, last season, Mr. Evans and Polsky, who did feature and contribute on the show last year. If you'd had to have been listening for a pretty long time to know who they are, but they are with us as well. Quigliano, but you are here, and good week for you.
Well, a bit of deja vu there, actually, Mills. I suddenly feel like I've been in this situation before. Are you going to reference that?
Yeah, I will reference it. I mean, we were about 3 minutes into the show and we realised that we hadn't plugged the microphone in.
You keep saying we.
Okay, I did, yes. So apologies for that, Quigliano.
And there's not just Quigliano
and the other people that are here. So hello to Mr. Evans and Polsky. Are you going to vocally contribute?
Hello.
And Polsky remains silent. We'll see how long that lasts. But no JP this week. Where is he?
I've no idea, Mr. Mills. Have you?
No, I've not seen him. So that's not what you said last time. So rehearsal.
I feel like I'm not going to lie to the listeners. I've already said it once, and now it wasn't recorded. So we'll move on. JP, you've been missing for a while now. I'm obviously paid handsomely by yourself. I hope JP's not going to get anywhere near as much as I receive.
Well, we'll have to look at a pro rata rate, won't we?
Absolutely.
Certainly. That's exactly what Quigliano wanted to hear. I mean, talking of JP, let's just pay homage to him for a second. He did make a very bold statement last week and said that every single person in our mini league would end up with 100 plus points last week.
More nonsense from JP as always.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. No one achieved that. Although myself and you, Quigliano, did have a pretty good week.
Score in the 80s, so I was happy with that. Sunday's performance was not as good as Saturday's.
Okay, but a good game week rank for you. I think about 35,000, something like that.
Yeah, it was good. It was moving in the right direction at the right time. There's a lot of worried people in this mini league that we are playing, and there's one that's very quiet in here. An EV who has been leading for a while, was very cocky.
Leads
no pedigree, no history of performing well in FPL. And then he was winning, everyone's starting to get worried. What's happened?
I do think I'm still only 5 points behind you, so I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet.
I mean, I've been quoted numerous times as saying if you finish above me, then you will win the league. So you're 5 points behind, mate.
With plenty of weeks still to go.
It's confident talk. I mean, it's not been backed up on the pitch really over the last few weeks, has it? But we'll see. There's plenty of time to go.
Talk of retirement from Polsky as well in the back. What's happening there, mate?
The one that does not speak. Wow. Studio silence. There is actually a fully grown man here in the studio, but he seems to have lost his voice. Okay, let's move on. Right, Quigliano, I'm going to come straight in then.
Does silence not work well on a podcast?
It doesn't tends not to, no. Especially the ones of the audio variety like this. So, game week 33, there's a double game week in there for Everton and Crystal Palace this week. Let's go to the Gary of the week, Quigliano. Is it going to be one of those players?
Well, I mean, we've got closest rival sat behind me. I'm a bit disappointed. I know he probably does listen to the show in secret. It's Lukaku. Okay, it is Lukaku who is going to be the Gary of the week. On a double game week, you can't ignore that. You'd be a very bold man to ignore the fact that he'll be playing twice. So there he is. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that concerns me perhaps is the form hasn't been great in the last two games, although Everton have played Arsenal and Manchester United, which are never easy fixtures. But the form before that was excellent. So
Palace and Watford.
Yeah.
Again, it's a brave man who doesn't go with that decision, I think.
Okay, so let's move on, Quigliano, to the Xabi.
So the long shot, a man returning from fitness. Again, the long shot, it's a punt. But KDB, a man who can occasionally start scoring very explosively on FPL. He is a man to have in your team. If you wanted to maybe catch up some ground, I think KDB is a nice little long shot, depending on whether he's going to play enough minutes to get you those points.
Yeah, I think let's look at Champions League as well on that. I think that's one maybe not to go too early on, but I do like that shout. Let's not forget, like you said already, KDB, he was making that Manchester City team tick before he got injured, and that's pretty much, I think, where their season kind of folded really when he went.
I mean, the other long shot would probably have been, but this is more captaincy based, Aguero, because again they've got a nice fixture at home against Albion. I think if you were wondering can I get away with not having Lukaku, there's my other person that I would maybe say yes, go with Aguero.
Okay, and
a little smirk there, were you?
The reason I was smirking, it was absolutely nothing to do with you, Quigliano. I thought Polsky had fell asleep in the back, but
That is known for his heavy breathing.
he was very heavy breathing there, so there was something going on certainly. Anyway, moving on to the dealer of the week. Where are you?
Is
it JP?
Yeah, where are you, JP? Actually, it was going to be Rafa Benitez, but we can save that for another week. So JP,
where are you?
Where are you? You've tried to develop a little bit of a niche for yourself in this sort of doormat role that you play.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you were to describe that niche, what would it be?
And then he tries to be Mr. Nice Guy. Off air, he slags a lot of the listeners off, and
especially the premium members.
So, yeah, he speaks a lot of derogatory terms mentioned, but again, it's a family show, not to be said on air. Where are you, mate? Because you're ignoring what apparently a fan base that you've created for yourself. So where are you? Let's be having you.
Okay. And we're going to move on swiftly to some side tips for this week.
We absolutely are. And I think, firstly, we've got to go Sanchez, Bellerin. Two players that seem to be on the up. Prices are rising. Players are turning their attention from Ozil to Sanchez. I feel that they are going to want to get involved in that, a lot of the punters. So, nice little side tip there. Thoughts on that one?
Like both of them, Bellerin's gone in my own team. I've left him out for far too long, and I've had to just take the hit and go for that. I think I just about managed to get in ahead of the price rise, which I believe is now 6.4 million, which is huge, isn't it, considering his price at the start of the season. And Sanchez, again, another player that I've got myself and captained him last week. So, yeah, pretty pleased with that as well.
Already mentioned Aguero. Already mentioned KDB. I think there's also value potentially to get Silva as another option, as a little side tip at City. Willian cannot be ignored at Chelsea, but I'm also liking Pedro there at the minute. I think Pedro is a definite option. Again, bit of a differential. Don't think as many people have sort of invested there. I think you can't ignore Liverpool going to at home to Stoke. Coutinho is back, isn't he?
He's back, yeah. A lot of people went on Firmino, didn't they, for a long time, and we thought he was going to be back last week, but he wasn't. Yeah, I think certainly I'd be on Coutinho over Firmino.
And then a tough one here with is Martial.
Yeah,
form is tough fixture in Spurs, but goals.
I mean, I'm going to ask Evans to come in on that, because you're probably our resident Manchester United fan.
With
or expert.
Tottenham away is traditionally a high-scoring game for Man United, and then the week after they've got a double game week, which does involve a fixture against Villa. So he's 3 goals in 4 games, so he's worth a shout.
Okay, and if you didn't know, Mr. Evans is very, very experienced in data, so so trust in that. Anything else for us, Quigliano, before we move on?
Another one, potentially. I mean, you have to always look who are Villa playing to maybe decide whether you're going to stick any players in. And Bournemouth, there's a few options there. There is still Richie. You know, at the start of the season, everyone was thinking, I must have Richie in my team, but Afobe as well. I think Afobe, focal point for their attack. Invest, because Villa are tripe.
Haven't scored in 2 games, though, Bournemouth. Haven't scored in the last 2 games.
I like it. Yeah, good facts. But I always say, who are Villa playing? Because they're mugs.
Yeah, they are. They're terrible at the moment. And just one word on Leicester before we move on.
Just one word. Is that going to be very quick?
A few words, if you want.
Right, you
they, it looks like they're going to win the league, doesn't it? It really. I think they need 4 wins from the remaining 6 games to win the
That's
league.
not easy.
It's not easy, but their form is excellent, and they're grinding out results, and they're keeping a lot of clean sheets. And that's where I'm kind of going with this. Do you invest in Leicester defenders because they look like they're keeping games tight? They maybe not that don't have that free flowing attacking feel to them, but they look really solid defensively. Thoughts on that?
Most 1-0 wins in the league this year. I think it's 7 compared to the rest of the teams.
Okay.
3 home games next out of 4.
He's coming in with a lot of hard facts here. I think the only problem with them is the double game week and the fact that they haven't got one for game week 34. So it's whether you keep the faith or not. But definitely with some of the cheaper defenders, I don't know why you would consider you could just bench those easily. And it's hard to ignore Mahrez and Vardy.
Okay, right. We're going to be back after this short break. We're going to be talking double game weeks, and we're going to have a very exciting question from one of our fans. See you in a second.
You are listening to Mills and Quigliano on the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
I had him when he was 9.2. He's now 10.4.
Okay, so Quigliano, great to hear that. We're going to move on. Evans, how was that first part of the podcast for you? It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a pleasure to be here, though, so far this afternoon.
Almost like you were never away.
It does feel like that. It does have that feel to it.
Should JP be worried?
I don't think so. I don't think I could touch his fan base.
Okay, well, I certainly hope you don't.
I mean,
I'm not sure JP would be happy about me touching his fan base
I'm
either.
sure how the fan base would feel about it. But I mean, there's not much to catch up. There's one person, okay, and that is JP's mom. She's an avid listener, and she's proud of her son. So potentially, there could be a chance you could overtake JP in terms of that.
Okay, we are going to be talking double game week 34 in a second. But before we do that, I've had a really interesting email, and it all revolves around Quigliano. And this comes in from Matthew Smith, who I think we heard from a few weeks ago. And he says, Mills, hope all is well. Thanks for the mention the other week and for the continued good work on the podcast. Just one further comment for potential discussion. Whilst the Quigliano Appreciation Society, California branch, continued to have the utmost respect for the man in question, we did have one further thought. After hearing his comments on his disease-curing blood, amongst other wild statements, is Mr. Quigliano the British Donald Trump? Indeed, I have noticed that there are no photos of you boys on the site, and so are they actually the same person? Is the podcast a release from the stresses of the campaign trail for the Donald?
I mean, what a compliment comparing me to future president. That is very, very kind words. Billionaire as well, I think. So yeah, very, very. I can see the similarities.
Very outspoken.
Just the power that I could potentially yield as well. So yeah, it's a very nice thing for him to say. Appreciate that.
So are you actually Donald Trump? I think that was the question.
No, I will confess I'm not Donald Trump. I am FPL megastar.
Okay. I mean, I can't believe he's just said those words. FPL megastar.
But you were saying it a minute ago off there.
Okay.
You were asking for my autograph.
Okay. I mean, I'm not even going to... Is Polsky still here? Thoughts on that? Thoughts on the words FPL megastar? He still has nothing. Evans, your thoughts on that?
I think Polsky's silence said it all, really. I think that's the...
Yeah, can't deny it. Literally can't think of any words to dispute what's
Maybe
been
not
said.
can't deny it, but can't respond to it.
No, I'm playing the heel, playing the villain there. Just I like the fact that it's generating a bit of interest and a bit of banter, so we love it.
Okay, and it's great that the Quigliano brand has reached California and it's been promoted so heavily.
Excellent.
Okay, fantastic. Maybe future president for you. You
bit of
never know.
merchandise, I think, is the next stage.
Maybe Matthew could set that up. So let's turn our attention to double game week 34, and the only reason I'm bringing that up this week, really, Quigliano, is that next week, if you're making a transfer for game week 33. Do you want to... sorry, I'm just being off-put by Polsky again. He's the silent assassin. Surely you have to have game week 34 in mind for your game week 33 transfers. You're not just going to go blindly in.
For those that are still playing, yeah, I think I've already played my wild card and a few of the chips. I think there'll be a lot that suffer a drop in their overall rank due to the fact that those that have been patient, have been waiting for this moment. They'll be playing their wildcards this week, ready to use maybe a bench boost to maximise the points and the number of players playing. Man United and Arsenal are the ones that you can't ignore, and I also think you can't ignore City, although they've got Chelsea in there, but they also have then a nice fixture against Newcastle.
Yeah, I suppose the difference with City is they've got 2 away games compared to Arsenal and Man United, who both have 2 home games.
Polsky's absolutely cracking up in the back.
You okay, Polsky? I'm desperate to get a word from the man.
He's gone.
If only there was video on this podcast. Okay, he has.
You invited him in, mate.
I wish I hadn't now. So in terms of those players, then, those teams, Man United and Arsenal. Who are the key players? I know you've already mentioned probably the Arsenal one, so let's maybe look at Man United.
I think. I would have said before the weekend, Rovo. He's somebody I've actually put in my own team, but he got subbed off at half time, cost me a clean sheet. Martial has got to be in there. Potentially Lingard as a cheap one to allow you a few more players playing there. Also, we've talked about the City ones and the Arsenal really. I mean, Payet has got 2 games there, and they've got Watford and Leicester. I think he's massive for West Ham. He's class.
He is. He's brilliant. Evans, just quick word from you on that. I mean, it'll be probably another year till we see you again, so maybe a prediction for the next 2 weeks. Who would be the player to go for?
I think Mata would be a good option for Man United. He's pretty regular starter and does pop up with the odd assist here, and he's not too expensive in the midfield. West Ham player is definitely one. Antonio is another.
Yes.
Does pop up with the odd goal for West Ham. So, but I think West Ham have probably got the trickier fixtures. So you're looking at Man United and Arsenal, really.
Okay,
I think
fantastic.
the one thing to consider is, are you willing to drop your Spurs players who are only playing once? Because most are going to have Ali or Kane in there, and probably a defender as well. So, like, how many people are going to sacrifice those to then try and get them back?
Okay, and just before we kind of wrap up the cheap version of the podcast and we're going to podcast extra, just a quick word on minus points. What are your 2 opinions on minus points for a double game week player? Is it worth taking a -4 for a double game weeker?
EV, do you want to go first on that, mate?
I'm sure you mentioned this nearly a year ago, that taking minus points was something you should never do, and I'm in agreement with that. I think, if your team's settled, you'll have your strong players, and like I say, if you've got the likes of Kane and Ali, you won't want to chop and change them for 1 week only. So
yeah,
I don't think taking minus points to accommodate that many players is the right way to go about it.
I think the only definitely not for game week 33. I don't think there's enough teams playing. So Everton and Palace, I wouldn't be taking the minus.
That is
points.
a shame, as I've already taken a -4.
I know that, and sometimes it pays off. But for game week 34, I would be willing to take -4 if I thought I had to have some players, maybe just to defend from other people in my mini league. So it might be like, I need to have the same player in order to not lose ground.
So most teams are at risk of rotation, though, aren't they? Liverpool got big fixtures with Dortmund coming up. City have got PSG. Everton and West Ham have got big cup games coming up. Man United rotate quite a lot, so I think you might.
What have they got coming up, mate? As a fan?
big FA Cup replay against West Ham. I think.
Oh, right, excellent. So they are still in the hunt for a competition, are they?
Still in a trophy hunt. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, right. That pretty much wraps up the standard podcast. We are going to be back in the podcast extra, where we're going to endeavour to get Polsky to speak.
Well, I think he's done better than JP so far. So.
Contribution-wise, yeah.
It's got more sense.
A lot more sense.
And we're going to get everyone's captain selections for game week 33. If you're not yet signed up as a premium member, please go to fantasyfootballtips.co/register, where you can sign up there. And I do believe there is still a 7-day free trial that you can get on our monthly package. If not, adios, and we will see you next week. But we'll be back in 2 seconds for podcast extra.
Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The fantasyfootballtips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.